Hey guys, John Rettinger here. The Tilt 2, or the Touch Pro 2 as it's known internationally, is a really hot device. It brings with it some very advanced hardware specifications, augmented by Windows Mobile 6.5, or Windows Phone as Microsoft is calling it, with HTC's own skin on top of it called TouchFlow 3D. Odds are if you're considering the Tilt 2 or the Touch Pro 2, you've at least looked at the iPhone 3GS. And if you haven't considered purchasing the iPhone, you're at least familiar with how the operating system works. So it should be a relatively reasonable and fair comparison. We're going to cover hardware, browser, navigation, customization, app store, and keyboard on both devices. So let's start with the thing that you look at the most, the screen. The screen on the Tilt 2 is a 3.6-inch resistive touchscreen, meaning you can use a stylus because the touch sensitivity is done by 2 layers of film that actually push together. So resistive screens do have a little bit of squishy feel to it. The iPhone, on the other hand, has a 3.5-inch capacitive touchscreen, which is used by a transfer of electrons. So that's why you can really only use your finger. So in that comparison, the Tilt 2 does have a little bit bigger screen. So speaking of dimensions, the Tilt 2 is 4.54 by 2.33 by 0.65, whereas the iPhone is 4.5 by 2.4 by 0.48. You know, nothing terribly exciting there. Colors-wise, the Tilt 2 can show about 65,000 colors, whereas the iPhone can show many, many, many more, about 16 million. The pixel-wise, we're looking at 400 by 800 for the Tilt 2 and 320 by 480 for the iPhone. This is actually the highest resolution that Windows Mobile can show. The iPhone 3GS certainly has multi-touch, whereas the Tilt 2 does not. From a battery standpoint, we're looking at talk time of 7.5 hours for the Tilt 2 and 12 hours for the iPhone 3GS, but we get 475 hours of standby time for the Tilt 2 and only 300 hours of standby time for the iPhone 3GS. So enough of this non-screening on comparisons. Let's talk about something that we can actually see. Let's turn the screens on for each. And let's start with the browsers. Pocket Internet Explorer, the browser that has shipped with most versions of Windows Mobile before this, was, let's just say, not the best. So HTC recognized that and actually shipped the Touch Pro 2, in this case the Tilt 2, with Opera, which is a very, very, very capable and scalable browser. So we're going to go ahead and open up the same website on each. We'll go over to Internet. Here we go. And we will launch youtube.com/John4Lakers. Okay, so I've got it queued up on both devices. We are running on the same 3G connection with between 4 and 5 bars of 3G service, so this should be very quick. And I should also mention that this website has been viewed on both devices, so cookies and cache and everything should already be there. So this is a test of how a website that you look at on a daily basis would load up. Let's go ahead and try and get these things to launch at the same time. We're going to go ahead and hit go. Hit go there, and hit go here at the same time. Alright, and we are off. And certainly your 3G speed is going to vary depending on where you are, but at least running on the same network should be a pretty fair test. So it's already loaded on the iPhone 3GS and it's still rendering here on the Tilt 2. Now, in the interest of brevity, I'm going to limit my browser comparisons to just one website. Otherwise, this is going to end up being a 20 to 30 minute video if I do a few tests. But suffice to say, in all the tests that I have run, the iPhone 3GS does render pages, no matter what page it is, just a little bit quicker. So now that both pages are up and ready to go, let's take a look at navigation and how the site looks. So both have an accelerometer, so I can turn it and it will rotate, as you can see. Now, navigation is a little bit interesting on the Tilt 2. You don't have the multi-touch you might be familiar with on the iPhone. Navigation is done via 2 ways. You can either double tap to zoom in on an area. Otherwise, there is a zoom bar across the bottom that allows you to zoom in and zoom out. Scroll in and scroll out. Now, it does zoom in a little bit of an arbitrary area, so you got to sort of pan around to get where you want to go. But it does definitely function how you would expect it to do. Now there's a little bit of a buffering time like you saw there at the checkerboard platform, but scrolling is smooth and you can definitely get around anywhere you'd like on the website. It's worlds better than Pocket Internet Explorer if you've ever used that. It's a very, very capable HTML browser. On the iPhone, for example, you can do that same double tap, scroll around. You don't get that same checkerboard pattern, and you can zoom in via multi-touch, so just pinch and zoom. That's going to come down to personal preference. Browser, I think, is definitely stronger on the iPhone 3GS, but it's very capable on the Tilt 2 as well. So next, let's talk about navigation. We'll go back to the home screen on each. Navigation for the iPhone should be relatively familiar. If you're an iPhone fan, you know how it is, or if you don't like the iPhone, you're probably sick of seeing it. It's done by a simple grid array of icons. And you scroll around, and you have to scroll from screen to screen to get to where you'd like to go, at least for the main navigation. You can drill down in menus, so settings, and you get some more options. In each one, you can go through and see what your sub-menus are. The iPhone is a pretty simple user interface. It's relatively elegant, easy to use, although it might be getting a little bit stale. So let's take a look here at the Tilt 2. This again is running Windows Phone or Windows Mobile 6.5 with TouchFlow 3D on top of it. This navigation is done by its main bar across the bottom. You can scroll all the way down and see all your options. Home, people, text, mail, internet, calendar, stocks, pictures, and the like. It's a pretty smooth navigation. I've used TouchFlow 3D in the past, and generally the processors that I've used these devices on, so the AT&T Fuse, for example, it's been a little underpowered. This can get laggy. The Tilt 2, however, its processor is quite fast, and it can handle the quick scrolls. So it does actually end up being very smooth and a nice and easy to use interface. TouchFlow 3D makes Windows Mobile, I think, very finger-friendly as well. So if you're a corporate user that's used to Windows Mobile, this is going to be a very pleasant surprise to you, and things actually work and are really zippy. The Start menu that you've seen in most Windows Mobile phones is gone, replaced with this sort of honeycomb-looking grid array, which, as far as looking at programs, is quite easy to use when there aren't that many on the list. But if you go into something like Settings, for example, I will go to System. When there's quite a lot to look at, it can be hard to find where you want to go. Although overall, I definitely prefer the honeycomb array to the old sort of list that was found in Windows Mobile. This one's really going to be a draw depending on what you're used to. If you want the simplicity and elegance of the iPhone, it's a great way to go. Looking for the customization and the more exchange synchronization and some more advanced features, and especially a more open platform, the Windows Mobile is really going to be a very solid way to go now. So speaking of customization, let's talk about that. On the Tilt 2, really you can customize everything. Programs like SPB Mobile Shell or registry tweaking and hacking are pretty simple to use and install, and you can make the Tilt 2 really do anything that you'd like. You can change the home screen, you can put in video wallpapers, you can customize the tabs on the bottom. That's one of the nice things about Windows Mobile is that it's open and you can customize everything on here. On the iPhone 3GS, it's certainly not that customizable. Apple is really limited in what you can do. You can move the icons around, but if you're not going to jailbreak, your hands are quite tied as to what you can do. We're going to keep this comparison video as just a, official tweaks. However, if we're going to talk about registry hacking and new ROM installation on the Tilt 2, it's important to notice that you can do a lot of the same things if you do jailbreak your phone on the iPhone 3GS. Definitely something just to keep in mind. I don't jailbreak mine, but something that you definitely could do. So one of the other new things that came with the Tilt 2 in Windows Mobile 6.5 is a new marketplace. So one of the nice things about Windows Mobile in the past is that you could install programs nice and easily just via an install.cab file that you could download from your mobile browser and just install. Well, they take that sort of format and put it in a much simpler, easy to navigate package. And I think that the marketplace is really nice and easy to use. It's linked into your Windows Live account, and you work just as you'd expect it would. Most popular. Some are free, some are not, and you want to download one, you just pick it. It's going to ask you for your Live ID. Before it's going to give you a description, you're going to get some screenshots, and you're going to get some reviews on it. It's already 135 reviews. It's a very nice app store. Scrolling is fluid, and you get all the information that you need. The App Store on the iPhone actually looks relatively similar. So we'll open that up here. And you can view it by featured categories or top 25. And if you want to buy something, it's linked to your iTunes account. Certainly, if you're going to talk about how the app stores behave, it's got to be a draw. However, the App Store on the iPhone just has much more in it right now. I think that the app marketplace on Windows Mobile is certainly going to catch up, and there are thousands of Windows mobile applications that can be downloaded, but they're just not all in the marketplace right now. So the Tilt 2 is called the Tilt 2 for a reason, and that's because it tilts up. And as it tilts up, it definitely shows you its full QWERTY keyboard. So let's move on to the final comparison phase, keyboard input. So you can input text in a few different ways on the Touch Pro and the Tilt 2. You can take advantage of the on-screen keyboard. So we'll open up Office Mobile. Go ahead and open up Word. Open up a new document. And you get either a landscape or QWERTY soft keyboard. It's a little bit difficult to use, but you can scroll around to see the keys to make sure you're hitting the right one. You can rotate it and get a landscape keyboard as well. But if you're using one of these, odds are you're going to be doing most of your typing like this. And the full QWERTY keyboard is very easy to use. And it's actually one of the better full physical keyboards that I've ever used. It's very simple. It's got a lot of buttons. You have an extra row just for symbols. There's a nice throw in the keys. You don't get that sort of limp feeling that you get in the middle. It just works. However, when you do tilt the screen up, you're going to lose some of the room you had on that top row of keys. Notice there's a lot of room for your thumb there. When you tilt it up, you're going to lose that. So if you look at the keyboard on the iPhone, for example, I'm going to go ahead and open up a Notes application. You get a on-screen QWERTY keyboard, either typing in landscape or portrait. Now, before I tell you my opinion, I should say that I use an iPhone 3GS as my primary phone, so I'm much more familiar with the on-screen keyboard that it offers. That being said, I've gotten very used to typing on it, and I think it is quite easy to use. However, it's not nearly as easy as having a full physical QWERTY keyboard like the one found on the Tilt 2. It certainly rotates into landscape as well. So, overall, guys, and in conclusion, it's really going to come down to what you prefer. If you like the elegance of the iPhone, I think there's really nothing better as far as a seamless, easy-to-use experience. I think you're going to get probably the best mobile web browsing experience. So if that's important to you, if web browsing is of paramount importance, and if you'd like picture viewing and video viewing, and most of your videos are done through iTunes and your songs are all downloaded through iTunes, it's going to be tough to beat the iPhone 3GS. However, if you want more customization, a more open platform, the ability to sort of tweak it and have access to a few more file formats, you can put a ton of different video and audio formats on the Tilt 2 using its media player and built-in audio players. It's a great way to go as well. It's going to come down to what you prefer. So guys, which one do you prefer? Is the Tilt 2 something that interests you, or are you not interested in it for a particular reason? Do you hate the iPhone, or you're not interested in the iPhone for a particular reason? I'm curious to what you guys have to say. Leave a text or video response. For exclusive content, guys, be sure to check me out on Twitter, twitter.com/JohnFordLakers. And to learn more about Techno Buffalo, check out technobuffalo.com. Links to both will be in the sidebar, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.